And despite the technology used by the U.S. government, consider this. When Edward Snowden viewed and downloaded nearly 2 million documents, there was no software in place to log what he was doing. I talked about that and other cyber spying issues with Marcus Ranum. He is the Chief Security Officer for Tenable Network Security.
Well, it's very interesting. Apparently, he was caught downloading some stuff or accessing some stuff, and someone questioned him, and he said it was his job as a system administrator. But you know, millions of documents being downloaded is something that you would sort of expect would cause a spike in the system log.
You've said in the past that military technologies have been bought and sold pretty much forever. You actually wrote a couple of years ago, it has always been the case that the higher tech power that wishes to remain higher tech and powerful must protect its technological edge or gives away its advantage. And it seems like it's a case of easier said than done. So how possible is it for a country or company to maintain a technological advantage?
Well, it's going to be very difficult unless you don't engage in any kind of trade. I mean, a great deal of foreign trade is done under the terms that there's going to be technology transfer. So, for example, when, Apple builds a plant in China, there's a collaboration with the Chinese government essentially going on. You've got organizations like Huawei, which is a joint venture between the Chinese government and 3Com. So this is how business is done. It's how business has always been done.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Let's talk more about the money aspect of that. And as you mentioned, Apple, Microsoft, Cisco, those companies make their money in their technology, yet each of these companies has disclosed trade secrets to China in order to do business there. So take us behind the scenes. How frequently do big countries insist on information sharing in order to do business?
I think it really happens all the time. I mean, even if you go back to the American Industrial Revolution, we had, in the U.S., the Industrial Revolution was built on stolen English, French, and Scottish steam and metallurgical processing techniques. It's always been the case that whichever countries are slightly behind, will try to recruit the technologically savvy people from the countries that are ahead. The way to prevent this kind of thing is through negotiation, through, in some cases, trade sanctions or something like that, maybe some legal protections, but really the way to solve the problem is to innovate and just keep innovating.
Where is technology going now? This seems to be a field that is constantly evolving. What do you see?
Well, software is really where a great deal of the game is, and I think the U.S. has to preserve some sort of an edge in the software industry, and that really means having as many creative, intelligent, and motivated people as possible developing software and doing things on the cutting edge. Hardware is becoming less and less of a barrier now that you've got things like 3D printers and CAD systems. You can go from a prototype to a production idea fairly quickly, and there's lots of places around the world that will build things in huge quantities for you. So really what we need to do is continue to look at where the interesting innovation is happening and just keep piling on the work there. I think it's great that the U.S. is still a place where people want to come for a good education. We really need to struggle to preserve that. We should be investing much, much more in educating our people so that we can continue to be the source of innovation and technological drive rather than trying to essentially hold everybody back.
So which countries are doing a better job than the United States in terms of moving their students forward in technology?
Well, India, Japan, many of the European countries, and then of course now that we've got some parts of the world where there's economic problems, there's also an extremely strong motivation, and you can see there's some very good software coming out of parts of the world where there really isn't any money, and the purpose of those software products is to take money.
All right, Marcus Ranum, Chief Security Officer at Tenable Network Security, thank you for your insight.
Thank you.